Yeah? Well, let's do a quick activity before we get started. Are we going to have fun today? All right, I want you to reach out and touch your neighbor to your left. Okay? Or right, if there's no one on your left. Now, when you go home, you can tell people you came to an incredible Posh event. You had fun, and you were touched. All right? So in all seriousness, I want to kick it off, and I want to talk a little bit further about some things we're going to talk about today. I want to talk a little about why we're here. It's your business. Where do you want to take it? Each of you came here because you're entrepreneurs, right? You've done something difficult. You've started a business. No matter what stage you are in your business, there's different things that you've had to do and grow with. So take the opportunity today to think about what's important to your business. What do you want to learn? How are you going to be inspired today? How are you going to inspire others? What does your business need most? I think one of the things that's important in any business is thinking about how do you step out of your comfort zone? As you think about your comfort zone, ask yourself, are you truly happy? Or are you just in your comfort zone? Are you just comfortable? Outside your comfort zone is where the magic happens. So I'd encourage you and I'd challenge you today to think about those things. If you hear things and you say, gee, that sounds hard, I'm not sure if I want to do it, ask yourself that question. Are you willing to make the magic happen and step outside of your comfort zone? So with that, I want to start with a story. It's the elephant rope story. It was interesting. When I was a kid traveling around, I'd seen this very thing. I thought it was fascinating. So I'll tell you this story. It's an unknown author that wrote it. It's short. So there was a man traveling in a village, and he saw these elephants, large elephants. Full-size elephants can weigh over 16,000 pounds. Elephants, they were tied up not with a chain, not in a cage. They were just out in the public markets, and they had a very small, loosely attached rope to a front leg. The man didn't understand, how is this possible? How is this large elephant that could walk away at any moment just standing there? He walked past a trainer, and he said, why are the elephants just standing here? What's occurred? And the man says, well, we condition them in a very young age, when the rope will hold them, to have them stay there. And he said, we continue that conditioning as they grow older because it's the most humane thing to do. And so he said what they've done is they never try and break away or run away because they're conditioned to believe that they can't leave. They're conditioned to believe mentally that they can't leave those circumstances. And it's interesting, that's what a lot of times is also called a self-limiting belief. And it's interesting as you think about your life, as I think about my life, I think about those instances, where do I have self-limiting beliefs? And where have I placed those on myself, or I believe other people have placed those on me? It's important to look at that and be honest with yourself and say, is this a self-limiting belief? Or am I willing to step outside of my comfort zone and do something really exciting? So we've got a lot of things we're going to talk about today. It's going to range the gamut of all the things that are important to your business at kind of A to Z. Now, the truth is, don't be overwhelmed. So if you try and apply it all at once, I think it can be overwhelming. We've probably gone to conferences. I've gone to conferences, and I try and digest everything that they present, and it feels overwhelming when I go back, and I'm not really quite sure what I picked up. So my encouragement, if you haven't already, take a few moments and think about what are the top 3 to 5 things that are most important for your business. As you think about where you want to take it, what is most important for your business today, focus on that. You know, I tell you, you're surrounded by some of the smartest people I know at Posh, each other. If you don't hear it talked about today, talk with each other in your groups. This is a really valuable opportunity to talk with each other and understand and share experiences, share what works, share what doesn't work, share different things you're working on. So use each other as a resource. Let me just hit some of the things we are going to talk about today. Sponsoring. Sponsoring is critical. It's the lifeblood of your team. You and your team are either sponsoring and growing, or you're not, and you're shrinking. It's really one or the other. So I think we're going to talk about sponsoring in different ways to help with sponsoring. The 5s. And so we've talked about this before. We're going to dive into a little bit more detail, but this is whether it's 5 parties, 5 hostesses, 5 customer touch points, simple methods to make sure for yourself and your teams, what are the simple methods you can do to be consistent in doing business behaviors that are going to grow your company. We're also going to talk about IPAs, income producing activities. I felt embarrassed to ask. It was Ann and Eddie had been talking about IPAs and how important they were for your business for a while. And I finally had to ask Ann. I said, I'm pretty sure you're not talking about India Pale Ale, but I don't know what it is. Income producing activities. And so we're going to talk a little bit also about self-discipline and organization. Critical for your business to say, is what I'm doing in this exact moment an income producing activity? Or is it maybe just interesting entertainment, or is it fun? That's okay too, but being honest with yourself about where you're spending your time is going to be really critical as you grow your business and you think about where you want to take it next. New trend, obviously, catalog and product. We've got some really exciting product and things to share, and so that's going to be really exciting. So you want to make sure you pay attention for that and for the descriptions and the demos that we're doing. Parties and events, the lifeblood of a party planning company. So we're going to have some good training on how to recruit hostesses and how to have better, more effective parties and events. Lastly, I'm going to cover later today numbers and key insights. I think some of it you'll find interesting as you look at your business. I had the team spend probably about a week doing a lot of kind of deep analysis on this, and it was funny. I remember they sent me the file and they said, "Here's everything you asked for." And I hit open in Excel, and then all of a sudden I heard the fan start spinning on my computer. It was a funny smell coming off my computer, and I said, okay, there was a lot of work that went into this. So I think there'll be some really interesting insights to share a little bit later. In the immortal words of Ron Swanson, never half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing. So I actually think that's really true. And there again, picking those 3 to 5 things, or whatever it is, that small manageable number that are important to your business, focus on those things. Focus on the things that are going to get you to the next level. They're going to get you what you really want to accomplish, your goals of what your business is to you and to your family, and as you think about your why and what you want to do. Excuse me. The last thing I'd say is the important thing is in any business or any endeavor you do, personally or professionally, is do it with passion. So my last recommendation for you as you go through today, rekindle your passion for Posh. Rekindle your passion for why you're doing Posh. It's critical. I've often said, I think you can take one really passionate person in life and they can do the work of 10 or 20 dispassionate people. So a lot of people have talked extensively about passion. Obviously, Simon Sinek and others have talked about why. I think your why drives your passion. And I've heard a lot of interesting and really compelling whys from many of you here of why you do Posh. I think my personal favorite is the people that said they did it because they wanted to show everybody that they could start a business, they could be an entrepreneur and be very successful. I think that's a great passion for doing it. That's a great why. I've heard whys, they want to support their family, their kids. They want to let their husband not work 2 jobs. They want to have things they didn't have before. Those are all great whys. The only, I think, why you shouldn't have is one that's not yours. And so as you think about your passion and why you do this, that's going to be so critical. Passion is what's going to help the person who's nervous about start. Passion is what is going to help someone who's worried about hosting a party host, or having parties, or doing customer follow-ups on the phone because they don't want to. That passion will drive you. Personally, I would tell you, I have a fear of public speaking. Passion for each of you and doing this is why I'm here and why I can do that. And I go past that because I do have a fear of public speaking. I don't like it. But I have a passion for what we're doing here, and I think it's so important, and so it pushes me further. And so I can't say enough about how important that is. So how do you measure your passion? How do you think about it? I've heard a lot of different people say, I think, really great things about it. For me, I boil it down to 2 things. What makes you come alive, and how will you measure your life? You know, how do you think about what makes you come alive? For me, that's a little bit like explaining what salt tastes like to someone that's never eaten salt. It's really hard to do, but if you've done it, and I think we've all felt passion, you know what that feels like. So think about it. Think about whether it's personal or professional with Posh, think about what makes you come alive really, and focus on that, because as you do that, and as you rekindle your passions, if you don't have them currently, you'll be much happier and you'll be much more effective. The other is how you'll measure your life. If you look back in 2 or 5 years or 10 years, are you going to be happy with the choices that you've done, and does that measure up with your why and your passion? I've spent the last couple of weeks actually just thinking about this, and thinking about the last number of years and thinking, how does that measure up with what is important to me now? And it's an interesting exercise. I encourage you to do that. As you do that and you think about what your why is and your passion, that is usually what lasts longer than most of the things that you'll do in life. That is the base of, in a lot of respects, of who you are. So I'll leave you, I want to conclude with one story before Judd already spoiled. I have a big announcement. But before that, let me share a story. Excuse me. The true story of Butch O'Hare. And why do I say true story? I say true story because it sounds so incredible it would be hard to believe. I heard this story probably about 20 years ago, and I've thought about it a number of times. So Butch O'Hare was a naval flight commander in World War II. He served aboard the USS Lexington. One day he was called up, he and his squadron, they were called up to go on a mission. took all of the all the planes on the aircraft carrier to do it. It was an important mission. They left, and within, I think, 30 minutes of the flight, Butch looked down and realized that someone had forgot to top off his fuel. He wouldn't have enough fuel to go do the mission and come back to the carrier. He called into the flight commander and asked what to do. He said, "You got to turn back to the carrier." Butch was disappointed. Butch was a very patriotic, passionate person about the country and defending the country. Butch turned around. And Butch, as he turned around and headed towards the carrier, he was out of radio contact with both the squadron and the carrier, and he came across 9 Japanese bombers that were coming to bomb the Lexington. In that moment, he had to decide what to do. He didn't have any radio contact. The carrier was defenseless without any fighter jets, fighter planes, and he couldn't get the squadron back. Without thinking twice about it, he pushed full on the throttle and began to engage the 9 bombers. Butch had 250 caliber wing-mounted guns on the plane. They would last about 34 seconds of continuous firing. Butch was able to down 5 of the planes before they got to the Lexington. After Butch ran out of ammunition, he began diving his planes at the bombers to try and take them out so they wouldn't attack the carrier, because he knew if they got to the carrier, they would destroy it. So he began diving his plane again and again, trying to clip the wings of the planes to get them to leave. Ultimately, the planes did turn back. The remaining 4 bombers turned back. The Lexington was saved, as well as the other battleships, and Butch was able to land with only 1 bullet that had landed in his plane, had been fired on his plane. So it's an interesting story. If you've ever gone to the Chicago O'Hare Airport, there is a statue of Butch O'Hare between Terminal 1 and Terminal 2, along with the Medal of Honor, Congressional Medal of Honor award, the first granted to a naval pilot. As I think about that story, and you say, why did I relate it? It's because passion matters so much. Passion is that causes somebody to advance against an enemy to protect their fellow comrades, to protect the patriotism of the country, to run out of ammunition and think the next thing to do rather than turn back or go away is to throw your plane at those other planes. Passion is what really makes the difference, and is the difference between good and great, and it really makes a big difference. So with all that said, as you think about the rest of the day, I would encourage you, think about those things that are most important to your business. Engage in conversation with people at your tables at breaks and when we've got downtime. Talk about the things that are inspiring to you, the things that you want to do. Ask for help, offer help, be there for each other, have fun, and think about, what is it? Think about your why and think about how Posh can help you with that and help you engage in what's most important to you. So with all that said, are you ready for a big announcement? It's kind of bigger than that, so I'm going to leave if that's all you've got. Do you have anything big? Do you have anything better? Starting tomorrow a.m., we will have PayPal enabled on the site. We have been testing it the last 3 or 4 days. It works in production. We feel very good about it. It will be enabled tomorrow a.m. We are going to release, right now, we're going to release training. That's going to be done, I think, through a few different venues, but we've done some nice video training. It's very simple. If you've used PayPal, it should be the exact same as what you've used before. So we're excited about that and think that'll be a great win for your customers and you. Thank you.